One of your assignments while you're in this class is going to be to visit a religious site that's different from your own. And so today's session is going to focus on how to be sure that we show proper etiquette. For example, if you come to a Hindu temple, here are some things that you're going to need to consider. You probably can't see that list and you're not going to memorize it. I'm just pointing this out to you as an example of what you'll need to find out before you make a visit. One of the first classes I ever taught was while I was still in seminary. I was in the PhD program and I was teaching an urban plunge experience. We spent about 10 days exploring Vancouver, trying to understand the challenges of ministering in a multi-religious urban context. One evening during our debriefing time, I asked a student if he had ever been in a masjid before. "I ain't never been in a Methodist church," was his response. Far too many of us in ministry have no idea what it is like to be in another religion's worship space. In today's video, we're going to be talking about how to be a good guest. The first question we want to talk about is why. Of course, this is going to be a shorter video because the bulk of your assignment for today's session is to actually go out, make a visit. This is part of the project that you're working on for the course. You're going to be sharing about your experience on the forum and also in your paper. Remember that the forums are class discussions, by the way. Read what other people have written, respond to them. Be sure to check back in a few days after you post your own experience. Maybe somebody's asked you a question, wants to know more about what you experienced. But as you go out, you may be thinking, why is he having us do this assignment? Why are we making these visits? Well, there are a couple of reasons. The first reason is to feel. Imagine the feelings of a first-time visitor to your church. I'm not talking about a Baptist deacon who's just arrived in town on a business trip and is looking for a place to worship on Sunday morning, although that could be awkward enough. I mean a person from a different religious background. A Muslim, for example, or a Hindu who is curious about the gospel and comes to visit your church. What would they see? What would they not know to do that everyone else would be able to do automatically? I remember the first time I walked into a church and they said, "Now we're going to sing the doxology." And I was like, "The dox who, what now?" And everybody just started singing. They all knew the words and I didn't know what was going on. Maybe they don't know what to do with the collection plate when it comes by. Experiencing a religious site that is unfamiliar to you is a great way to know how the non-Christians around you will feel the first time they come to a church. The uncertainty, the doubt, possibly even the fear, the awkwardness. But visiting their site will also give you the opportunity to feel something else. You will probably feel the bondage, the lostness, the hopelessness of their effort to enter into a relationship with a holy God. Which brings us to our second reason, to pray. While leading another urban plunge class, this time in Chicago, we toured the headquarters of the Nation of Islam under the leadership of Louis Farrakhan. We were overwhelmed by a sense of oppression and spiritual need as we saw the ways children were being raised up to oppose the truth of God's word. We prayed there quietly and then again as a group when we got back to our hotel. Seeing for ourselves the lies the enemy is telling vulnerable people can be a motivation to prayer. But also seeing their dedication to a lie can challenge our own commitment to the truth. We want to pray for them to be released, but also pray for the Lord to grow a greater heart for obedience and service within ourselves as His followers. We want to learn. Remember that you are a learner, not a knower. You are coming into their space to learn from them. What do they actually believe? You may be surprised at how many people you meet are hungering and thirsting after righteousness and just don't know where to find it. So listen to their stories as they explain their faith. A good question you can ask is taken from the book Any Three. What does your religion teach about how a person becomes right with God? And a follow-up question would be, how's that working out for you? This may open up an opportunity for you to share the gospel, which is actually the next reason we want to go and visit another religious site. We want to be able to connect with people from other parts of the world, other religious backgrounds. When we first moved to India, I visited a masjid. This is what Americans mistakenly call a mosque, but we'll talk about that more when we get to our unit on Islam. After the service, I was able to meet the imam, basically the lay priest of the mosque. I told him I was interested in learning more about what he believed, and for the next 18 months we were able to spend quite a bit of time together. Sadly, he never came to Christ, but he did hear the gospel several times, and that relationship opened up many other doors in the community because I was his friend and he was my sponsor. As you prepare for your field visit, I want to make some suggestions for what you can do before you visit, while you are on site, and after you return home. Before you arrive, you need to do some research on the religion so that you know what to expect. It won't be completely accurate, that's why you're making the visit, but at least you'll have a better understanding of what is going to happen when you get there. You're also going to want to get some specific information about the site that you are visiting. Are there visiting hours? Do they have a service that they would welcome you to observe? Do they prefer you to come at a time when they are not having a worship service so that you won't be in the way? Make sure that you get as much particular information about the exact location that you're going to. Part of that you're going to want to find out would be related to any kind of a dress code. Some places, like a Sikh Gurudwara, will require you to cover your head. Other places may want you to keep your head uncovered. Perhaps you'll need to remove your shoes. This is common to most areas of the world, particularly South Asian and Middle Eastern worship places. Hindu temples, Sikh Gurudwaras, Muslim masjids all require you to remove your shoes. Many places will require your arms and legs to be fully clothed. Make every effort to be dressed properly, and you're going to need to know that before you go. Finally, be sure that you are in an attitude of prayer. Pray for protection. Pray for opportunities. Come in an attitude of prayer, asking God to protect you, to open your eyes to all that you will be seeing. With all of that under your belt, you're ready to go. So while you are on site, what are you going to do? Well, of course, you're going to continue to pray. You want to maintain that attitude of prayer. Ask for the ability to understand the needs of the people around you. Pray for each person that you see. Remember that you are going as a learner. Approach that location not as a knower, but as one who wants to learn. This is not the time to tell them what they're supposed to believe. Let them tell you what they actually believe. Be willing to ask questions. Don't be afraid, but make sure the questions you ask are respectful, and listen carefully to the answers that they give you. Don't correct them. Allow them to explain to you what they actually believe. And remember that one of your reasons for going is to connect. So seek a contact. Ask the Lord to lead you to someone with whom you could share the gospel. It may not be appropriate at that time, depending on the type of event you're attending. So try to get contact information and make a plan to get together soon on neutral ground. Meet together for coffee or tea and continue the conversation. Finally, after you leave, you want to make a record of your experience. There are several questions that you might want to consider as you jot down some notes about what you experienced. What was the area like where the religious site is located? What part of town is it in? What is outside of the building? What is inside of the building? Who was around you? How did they treat you? Were they welcoming? Were they suspicious? Was it a very comfortable time? Were you surprised by anything? What time of day, what day of the week did you go? Does that matter? Would you want to go back at a different time of day or a different day of the week? What did you see? What was the place like? What kind of furnishings did they have, if any? Were there books about? What were the books about? Other questions would include, how did you feel? What was God saying to you during your visit? How was your spirit moved by the experience? Did anything significant happen while you were there? Did you meet anyone with whom you could follow up? Did you make an appointment? And are there any other comments you would like to record? So those are just some suggestions for why you would want to make this site visit, not just because it's an assignment, but why you would want to develop that habit wherever God places you in ministry. Some things to have in mind before you go, how you should enter into that experience, and what you should do when you come back to reflect on it. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm really looking forward to learning about your experiences both in the forum and in your paper as you include this in your process of developing a strategy for being missiological, of meeting another world religion for the sake of the gospel. God bless and have a great day. Regardless of where you end up doing your visit, these are some good ideas to keep in mind. You're probably going to want to dress more conservatively than perhaps you're used to, but make sure you call ahead, find out what are the timings, what are appropriate things to do and to say. Prepare yourself so that you can be a good guest and make a good reflection of your Lord. Thank you.